Welcome to episode 3 of RiteCast, a Battle Right podcast. I'm your host, Veritech. I'm joined here, as always, by my good friend One Eye. Before we get into it, make sure you follow us at RiteCast on Twitter. That is where you'll be able to catch the most recent announcements, and we also retweet out some other cool community stuff and official posts from Stunlock Studios. One Eye, how was your weekend? Did you join another guild, or is it just kind of hanging out and grinding?
It's I am enjoying the guild I am with pretty much. I know
Nice.
that sounds weird, but like I said, World of Warcraft's the game I've just tried to play a whole lot and never really got into the whole guild experience. And I'm actually exalted. I'm slotted for Mythic rating this week on Tuesday and Thursday. It's going pretty well. I've been enjoying it. It's definitely a twist. I've got to say, though, I had a lot of fun this week when we were playing Battle Right and Overwatch. It's always nice to dip my heels back into the arena. I just love that style of gameplay, so it was fun getting to play that a bit again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a ton of fun whenever we play Battle Right, and it's funny because I was watching some of the competitive tournaments this weekend, and it just made me realize how average I truly was at the game. Because I thought I was getting good at some of the characters, but nope. And it's rough, but it's a lot of fun. And we streamed some Battle Right and some Overwatch last week, and tomorrow is going to probably be Heroes of the Storm because there's some new content dropping. But I'm looking forward to playing some Battle Right on Wednesday. It's gonna be fun. It's always a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Always a good time. Well, this is episode 3 of RiteCast, and like we did for the first 2 episodes, and we're probably going to do from here on out because we have a good formula. We like sticking to it. We start off with the esports and competitive side of Battle Right, and there's already a vibrant scene. There's a lot of events. There's a lot of people who are casting, a lot of personalities. There's already some teams that are starting to repeat their results from previous weeks. But starting off, we're going to go ahead and announce that the CBR Open #1, our good friends over at Stunlock with the competitive Battle Right League, their Open #1 happened this past weekend. It was a lot of fun, top-notch quality in the production, as always, like they have with their Cal League over in Overwatch. But it's a 3v3 tournament, and D-Rama defeated Dancing Penguins 2-1 in the finals. In the grand finals, Dancing Penguins came back from the losers finals to defeat D-Rama 2-0 in the grand finals. And can I just say, there was so much back and forth between these two teams. It was nuts. And the difference in the two team comps. I mean, you had Varesh on one side and Pearl on another, and you had, Lucy, and it was just like there's so much difference in all these teams. Like, I was watching for 2 or 3 hours, and it was just the difference in all these teams and how they play. It was awesome to watch. And I mean, the first week of the CBR Open went off without a hitch, and I mean, it was really exciting to watch, and I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, you got a hold of me, and I got home in time just to catch the ending of that, and seeing it go from a 5-0 into a 5-1. I mean, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
It was some seriously fast-paced gameplay. I like to see that, the production value is so high for CBR, a really good broadcast. Like I said, unfortunately, I only got to catch the tail end of it in a few matches, but, man, it was really enjoyable. I'm excited. I have a little more time this weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to catch the Open #2.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have to check it out. And like he said, CBR Open #2 has been announced. It's going to happen Saturday, October 22nd, so this upcoming Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time is the start. So that's 10 a.m. Pacific. Plenty of time for those of you across the map, and even some of our European brethren, to tune in and catch some of that action, because it's really awesome. It's really awesome. Also, what happened this past week was the Pro Rivalry League 2 versus 2 #1 happened, and that was a $50 prize pool and 4 mount keys, which was the Molten Hound mount, went to the 2 finalist teams that competed in the finals. The winning team got the $50 and the mounts. The losing team just got the mounts, but it's still pretty sweet. And on that side, Fishwa Loveboat defeated Skywing 2-0 in those finals. Masters of Bacon has been going on now for 4 weeks. The qualifier #4 happened yesterday with Entropia, with the OP capitalized because it's OP, defeated TBD 2-0 in those finals. Now, the next Masters of Bacon event will be the finals. They will not be going on this upcoming weekend. They will be happening the 6th of November. You can go ahead and check it out at mastersofbacon.com. I believe they have the qualified teams up on there, and if not, they will be doing it shortly. Mastersofbacon.com. Also, the ESL 2-on-2 Open Early Access Cup number 3 happened for North America. Skywing defeated CC with Fishwa Loveboat finishing in 3rd place. Like I said, there are teams you will see results because they're starting to get really good, and they're already starting to develop kind of that good team chemistry. We've already heard about Skywing. They lost to Fishwa Loveboat in the Pro Rivalry 2v2. Skywing then was able to knock out Fishwa Loveboat before moving on to face CC in the finals, where they won, and Fishwa Loveboat then easily mopped up their 3rd place match. And finally, the ESL 2-on-2 Open Early Access Cup number 3 on the EU side happened, with Flower Power from Germany defeating Sweden's Judgment Day. So already there's a lot of esports action going on in Battlerite. It's only going to get bigger. I check the Discord server every other day or so because some of the developers are in there and they are posting announcements, and some of the tournament organizers are already posting announcements, and there's some more stuff going on. I believe there was another tournament, a play tourney, I believe is what it was called, was going on, and they're doing some qualifiers. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's already a very, very promising budding competitive scene for Battlerite.
I think it's funny and worth noting that Fishwa Loveboat defeated Skywing in the Pro Rivalry League, but unfortunately lost to them in the ESL 2-on-2 Open. So, I love watching competitive matches. It's fun to see, especially in the early stages of a game, how exactly the pro scene develops. All these players have really immense talents, and it's just nobody really feels like they're copying anybody else's style yet. Like, everybody just feels like it's just clashing heads, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just exciting to watch.
Yep, and teams are still trying to figure out, because Battlerite is still very new. I mean, there are some teams that kind of jumped out ahead of the pack and are just really good early on. But I mean, you and I have been involved with the Heroes of the Storm back when it was in Tech Alpha, closed beta, open beta. We were a part of Overwatch when it was in closed beta, and there was a lot of rosters that were really good that just kind of vanished. And so it'll be interesting to see, because Battlerite is so different as a MOBA and kind of like an arena brawler, and the fact that you have your WASD and then you still have to aim with the mouse. It takes a lot more coordination. So these early teams like Fishwa, Loveboat, and Skywing, and there were a couple other teams that had actually won the last couple of weeks that placed really high in the top 5 of their events. To see if they stick around. Flower Power in the ESL number 3, they won last week in the ESL number 2. So I mean, they're kind of the defending ESL 2v2 early access champs, so to speak, because they won last week, they won this week. But it'll be interesting to see if they can keep up, because there are more heroes coming. There's more characters that are going to be released, which kind of segues into the next section of the podcast. Jumong, the Beast Hero, has been revealed, and the developers kind of hinted, and like we said last week and in the first episode, they did say that there would be a sneak peek, and there would more than likely be 2 heroes coming soon. Now, Jumong, the first one, the Beast Hero, I mean, it's really no surprise. He's in the loading screens. People knew he was coming. They just didn't know what his kit was like. They probably didn't know what his name was going to be. But I mean, he's in the loading screens. He's been revealed. He's a ranged damage dealer, and he has an estimated release date in late October. So probably within the next week or two, we will see him added to the game. But that's pretty exciting. I mean, and it'll be interesting to see, going back to the competitive, if he kind of displaces these ranged characters like Ashka or Jade, or if he's just more of a situational hero to kind of counter a certain team comp. It's really exciting, and I can't wait to see what happens when he gets released.
It's funny you mention all these hints, because I know when they did the announcement, I even mentioned it to you. If you watch the gameplay trailer, like the gameplay launch trailer, he's in it.
He is.
And I'm actually pretty sure if you pay attention, I think there's one more hero in it too, but they're covered in a particle effect. Regardless, though, yeah, it's good to see that, this person who's in the loading screen, if you pay attention, is in the trailer, is coming to the game.
Yep.
I'm personally, and this is 100% personal, I'm a little bummed, not because, the hero looks awesome. It's nothing against that. I'm down with hunters. That's cool. Dude in a cloak with a bow. Yeah, sign me up. But I'm much more of a melee player, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anytime I see a melee release, I tend to get a lot more excited for something like that. But it'll be cool to see how he plays. I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, my antenna perked up because you know me. I love my range damage dealers. I play range damage dealers in WoW. I play range damage dealers in I'm a mid main in League. I was ranged assassin main in Heroes of the Storm before I had to switch to warrior main. I mean that's just what I do. I enjoy playing those characters. In Overwatch I like playing those ranged carries, so to speak. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see what his kit is like because the teaser video was only about a minute long and it didn't really showcase what his abilities were. It just kind of showed, this is what he does, like in a practical game setting. So I can't wait to get my hands on him and see kind of what his kit entails because he looks like he's going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it was announced that unranked matchmaking is coming. For those of you who play RiteCast and for those of you who follow along, you know that every single game you play is ranked. Well, Stunlock came out and said, we're going to release unranked matchmaking. And they didn't say when, but they said it's coming soon. And that's pretty cool for those who don't want to be super competitive, those who kind of get matched in and they're like, man, I don't want to, I'm only a rank 7, only a rank 8. I really don't want to get looked down upon. So, I mean, it's kind of nice that they're adding another game mode to the game, or if you just want to go in and have, a super casual time with your friends. Friends, and try out characters that you have no experience on. Like if I were to go on and play Sirius, who I've never played a single match on, I could do that in unranked, and I don't have to worry about losing, ranking points. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually find it a little bit interesting. If you look at the Steam post too, and I mean this is from today. This was 10 hours ago. You know what I mean? That'll be coming in the next patch. As well as the other thing they're adding with Unranked in the next patch is they're adding the ability to simultaneously queue for 2v2 and 3v3. I think that mainly comes from outcry on Reddit because people were really complaining about the fact that, why does it break up the party? Why do we have to remake every single time we want to switch queues and things like that? So the way the post explains it is when you load in, you'll choose either ranked or unranked, and then from there you'll choose 2v2, 3v3, or queue for both. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it'll be a pretty straightforward system, and it's a really quick response and implement time from them.
It really is. I mean, they're listening, and they heard kind of the outcry. Granted, it wasn't super loud because people are just really enjoying the game and how fast paced it is. And I mean, if you lose a couple games, it doesn't take very long to get those points back. I know you and I started last week when we were playing on like a 3 or 4 match losing streak, and we ended up making.
Oh, it was more than that.
Yeah. But we ended up making those points back up by the time we were done playing after a couple hours. I mean, it doesn't take long. The matches they're so fast paced, but it will be nice to have that extra kind of mode to play in for those who just want to have fun. They don't want to get flamed. They don't want to try super hard. They just want to test out this battle right tier or this battle right on this tier, or they want to try out a new character. They can do it kind of in a safe environment without fear of losing ranked points for them and their teammates.
Yeah, you can try somebody new without punishing yourself and the other people you're playing with. Because honestly, sometimes, and this is definitely like a personal thing, when I try new heroes, it's just like, oh, I'm dead weight. I feel so bad. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So being able to not tie MMR to it is very forgiving, in my opinion. It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something that I just thought of because I was looking at the show notes and I realized that we didn't really have a topic to discuss. And it's something that I noticed after you and I finished playing. I played for probably about another hour after that. I hopped on later. And I ran into a couple team comps that had no support. And they just were either 3 damage dealers or they had, a Bako and then an Ashka Jade. And all they were doing was they were hugging where the health spawns were, and they were trying to camp the middle to pick up the orb and deny us that. So it leads me to a thought, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. It's not super serious. We probably won't discuss it for very long, but are supports mandatory at this stage of the game? There's only about 4 or 5 supports that are really viable that you can play. Do you think that we will continue to see supports kind of predominantly in games just because you kind of feel like, well, we have to pick a melee tank, we have to pick a support, and then we have to pick a range damage carry? That's usually what we see, but these teams, they were just dishing out so much damage, we didn't really have a chance to kind of counter them. So do you feel like supports are mandatory, or are there certain compositions that, you can run support less?
It's difficult to say. I think one of the reasons you and I always pair really well when we play games together is because I'm a melee player, you're a range player, and we're
Yeah.
both extremely comfortable with support. It's a role we're not really shy about or, scared of playing at all. And I feel like, and this is all personal, this is all conjecture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The supports in this game are really good. All the supports have something that they offer, and we'll be going into Pearl later. I think she's kind of the exception in that she feels really low damage. But the big thing about this game is that everybody does damage, including the supports.
Yeah.
My issue, and this is kind of reflected in a lot of the metric data too, is that it just feels like Paloma's the best. I don't necessarily know if it's an argument of if you need a support. I think it's an argument of if you need a Paloma, just because she does so much. And this is not to talk down on any of the other supports or anything like that. Sirius is a monster if people can land those petrifies, you know what I mean? Like, Pearl is the best defensive character in the game. Her control is insane in her kit, and like I said, we'll get into her. I'll explain a little more. But Paloma just does so much. So when we're looking at the situations where it's like, is 3 damage dealers just better? Does that work? I really think it comes down to playstyle. I don't think supports are as mandatory in this game, but I feel like they still offer a lot. It's just Paloma dominates so much harder than anybody else. Also, on that note, I would gladly take any 3 versus 3 ranged matchup if you give me Baco.
Yeah.
Like sign me up for those odds all day. I like that. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's a little too early, in my opinion, to make any definitive meta calls on how it's getting played, but they don't feel as required as you would see in a traditional MOBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I can definitely see the appeal if you're just trying to catch an enemy team off guard, because you're used to seeing that support kind of as the backbone hanging out in the back. You're used to seeing the Paloma or the Pearl or the Lucy now. I've been seeing a lot more Lucies.
Mm-hmm.
You're just used to seeing that. And it's kind of like, Cannon Rush in StarCraft or, a super tanky or super fast comp in Overwatch. I think it's kind of, it's really just to catch people off guard because they're expecting one thing and all of a sudden they're getting blasted in the face. But I mean, if you have a Baco, you just throw his shield up and it really just punishes those cheese comps. I mean, I think supports are borderline not mandatory, but they still, it's better to have one than to try and run more of a cheese comp or a double damage comp. It makes a lot more sense to have a traditional composition in my mind, but I do see the appeal of running super bursty kind of cheese comps because you can catch somebody off guard, and it might work 1 or 2 rounds, but then they'll catch on, and I really don't see it being effective long term.
The other thing too, and I think this is worth noting, is the longer the game is out and the more heroes we get introduced to, I think the stronger the supports will become. Because, like I said, I don't think any of the supports in this game are weak. They're all incredibly strong. I'm blanking his name right now, but Sandyman.
Oh, Older.
Hourglass Forever. Yeah, Older.
Older.
That's the support I like playing, and it's because you punish bad mistakes. You reflect high damage projectiles, you reposition constantly. That's the kind of play style I enjoy when I'm playing a ranged support. So even though he's not necessarily top tier, they're all kind of around the same place. The thing is the longer the game's out, the better the skill pool is going to get. People are going to get more familiar with these high difficulty supports, like Sirius, for example, because Petrify is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We're seeing Loose become more popular because Fear is busted, as is constant AoEs. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as the game goes out and people experiment with the supports more, we'll see more of them, as well as when there's not such a small pool of heroes. And keep in mind, each hero has 9 abilities, which is ridiculous. Utility becomes more valuable because you have more answers for more problems. You know what I mean? As it stands right now, the hero pool is so small that you can have a pretty good guess of what 4 or 5 heroes you're going to see in matchmaking.
Yeah.
And so that kind of narrows down what exactly you have to play against. You know what I mean? So just to reiterate, I just don't want to feel like I'm talking down on the supports in the game because they're great. It's just I think it's a little early for them to be really shining.
Yeah. Yeah, they have their roles. I mean, if you want to do damage, don't play support. But if you really want to feel like you're making a difference, then by all means pick up and learn a support or 2. Speaking of support and picking it up and learning it, Pearl The Ocean Sage is our deep dive this week. I'll go ahead and let you cover that because I talk enough the first half of the show, and you do really well at explaining how heroes work. So why don't you go ahead and jump in on that?
Sure. This week I wanted to cover Pearl with the deep dive, mainly because when I was trying to figure out who to do a deep dive on, I thought the pun was funny since that's the name of her space. But also, week 1 we covered a range damage dealer, week 2 we covered a melee damage dealer, so it seemed fair that week 3 we cover a support. Pearl is the Ocean Sage, and in my opinion, she is the most defensive support in the game. One thing I like about the character design in this game is that everybody has a little bit of everything. Everybody has damage and some defensive and some utility and things like that. But Pearl is just such a hard hero to break, and I will go ahead and get into her abilities so you understand why. Her mouse one, which is her ranged attack, is Volatile Water. She shoots out a burst of water that deals damage. However, if her staff is charged, it'll deal additional damage and silence for 1.2 seconds. This is actually one of her EX abilities as well, and what it does when you do a shift 1 is that she will exchange some of her energy to instantly fully charge her staff. It's good if you really need to interrupt a quick ultimate or something like that. A good example is Sirius's ult, that big sunbeam. Things like that are really easy to handle. Or Ash's ult, that's another really good one to, or Jade, another really good one to interrupt. So that's one of the big things that makes her strong in that sense. Her mouse 2 is my favorite healing spell in the game, and it's called Healing Wave. She shoots out a burst of healing water that, if it hits an ally, will heal them, and it'll recharge based on how many allies are nearby her, too. Really flexible, really long cast range, really fast, recharges quickly. I know last week we went into a quick discussion about actual HP versus temporary HP and things like that. Healing Wave is really good at not getting your maximum HP lower just because it's so quick at healing you back up. Really strong spell. Her space bar is the ability Dive. Deep dive, right? Pretty funny, I know. 10 points to me.
Funny.
Not bad. Dive, where Pearl dives into a pool of water, dealing damage to nearby enemies, and then emerges at a different location. So it's a really effective way to quickly reposition. If anyone dives on you, you can go over walls, through terrain, into places you can't see. So it makes it extremely effective at juking enemies. It's a good way to keep her alive. Pearl's Q is Tidal Wave, where she enters a counter stance and counters the next melee or projectile attack that hits her. When she does block it, she deals a blast around her, dealing damage and knocking enemies back. So say you get dove on by the Croak, or you've got Baco in your face swinging his axe, go ahead and Tidal Wave, knock him back, deal some damage. Everyone's happy, right? Sorry, I had to cough real quick. Felt like I had something in my throat. Her E, which in my opinion is the strongest defensive spell in the game, I think it's insane, is Bubble Barrier. What Bubble Barrier is Pearl places a giant bubble on the ground that on cast will push enemies out of it, so you can actually use it to physically separate people from your allies. And then once it's up, will slow projectiles and enemies. And what I mean is it bullet times them. So say you see Jade about to charge a roll and you place a bubble in front of it, all of the projectiles will hit it and then instantly just snails pace through it. I mean, it effectively stops them. When the bubble drops, or if they should get to the end, then they'll fire back out at normal speed, but all enemies and projectiles inside of it are pretty much stopped if they try to cross it. It's a really insane spell. Her EX version of it, Unstable Bubble, does more or less the exact same thing, but when it finishes, it also explodes and knocks back. So once again, more control in her kit. Her R is Bubble Shield, where she consumes some energy and places a protective bubble on an ally, removing all negative effects and shielding them from incoming damage. This is one of my favorite R abilities in the game, sort of like how when we talk about Baco, I explained how effective War Shout is at like actually converting energy into sustain. Bubble Shield is the exact same thing, except it gives you even more utility in that it removes any debuffs. So say they have burn damage, or broken armor, or weakened auto attacks, anything like that. Bubble Shield them, get rid of it, and block some incoming damage. Really, really fantastic spell. And then her ultimate is Jaws, where she summons her massive pet shark Jaws at a location that'll jump up, swallow enemies, drag them down for a few seconds, and then spit them back up where he swallowed them, dealing damage. Really good at A, dealing a flat nuke when it spits them out. It's pretty reasonable damage. But B, offering a ton of zone control. The AoE on Jaws is extremely large, so if say you're trying to focus down a character and you see two of their teammates grouped up, it's really easy to just remove them out of a fight for a few seconds and burn down the person who's outside of it. It's a great way to execute people because since when they're removed from the map, they have no way to interact. They can't, apply a shield or a heal. They're just dead when they get spit out. You know what I mean? Really, really strong, fantastic team fighting ultimate, as well as the wombo potential is fairly insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I enjoy her because she feels really defensive. She also is extremely frustrating to play against if you don't understand the health mechanic, just because her spot healing is so good. When we get into battle rights, I'll explain it a little bit more, but she's just really difficult to deal with, generally speaking. She doesn't offer you the same damage as any of the other supports or necessarily the same flexibility, but if you have somebody you want to protect and you want to make sure they do not get near them, Pearl is an extremely good choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's really infuriating that you feel you have a good team comp, and like for example, you normally are on Bako or Rook or Uld or something like that, and I'm normally on like an Ashka or a Jade, and occasionally I'll play Paloma or Lucy. And on a Jade, you get a really good snipe, you got it lined up, and all of a sudden, as soon as the snipe goes off, you see the bubble go up, and hey, look, I'm staring at what appears to be my snipe in an amber bubble. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be preserved for the next 2 million years, like a fossil, because it just doesn't go anywhere. Pearl is the master at disengaging. I've seen so many Pearls that are just able to just slip away in a 1v2 or even a 1v3 and just survive for so long because she has such disengage. Her heals are good. She doesn't do as much damage as other supports, but she's so good at just blocking off and causing your enemy to go where you want them to go. Coupled with the fact that her Jaws, her F ability, her ultimate, it telegraphs where they land. It puts a giant X on the floor. So you're like, all right, it like you said, I mean, it sets up the perfect wombo. And I really wish I was better at her and I didn't lean so heavily on Paloma and Lucy, but I mean, she is a lot of fun to play when you know how to play her properly.
See, the other thing is it's strange because you don't necessarily feel really scared of her when you first see her because you don't take in the same amount of damage you do if it was like a Paloma. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, yeah, this is just actually a healer. We don't need to worry about her. We can either burst her down or something like that. And you try to go on her and she just dives out. And you have some other way to gap close her on her and she just bubbles you out and you can't get to her. She really feels like a classic support in my mind in that she just shuts down whatever you're trying to do. That's her specialty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in terms of battle rights, before I go into what I personally use, if you want to give her a try, I do want to also mention that I feel like her battle rights are extremely flexible. She has a lot of talents that can place other smaller bubbles or give additional heals. And while I don't personally like them and use them, please feel free to play around with her battle rights because her talent tree is really flexible and fun. When I build her, it's normally one of two ways depending if I'm playing her 2v2 or 3v3. If I'm going 2v2, I'm going to go for a more control-oriented build since I'm going to be getting focused down. There's only two of us. And if I'm going for a 3v3 build, I'm generally looking to maximize the value of her heal just because it's so potent and there's so much you can do with it. So without rambling too much, I'll go ahead and get into it. The 2v2 build I like is Tier 1 going Power of the Deep. And what that does is when you cast your dive and reposition, it instantly charges your weapon. So you can kind of do this combo where you silence, reposition, silence again to silence somebody for a straight, 2 seconds or more, depending on the other talents you take. It offers her just a lot of control and helps her damage a little bit too. For Tier 2 in the 2v2 build, I prefer splash damage, which makes it so a charged weapon fire deals the damage and silence in the AoE. So if both of them are grouped up, say it's a double melee, or you just have to catch them out of position, you can get even more value out of that one cast. Tier 3, regardless of if I'm doing 2v2 or 3v3, I always go Douse. I feel like it's the strongest battle right on the tier. Douse makes it so when you cast Dive, it applies a snare at the cast location. So if they're on you and you dive out, they're rooted and they can't chase you even if they wanted to. In 2v2 for tier 4, I like taking Aegis, which is 20% less damage below 30% health. Once again, the logic there is there's only one other person on your team, so you're going to be taking damage. So it kind of mitigates any damage you take late game and disincentivizes getting focused. Tier 5 for the 2v2 build, I like Presence of the Sea, which is when you cast your ultimate, your weapon gets charged. This is important because it gives you on the cast so you can apply silence to anybody who's not in it, as well as immediately cast a silence when they're split out. Either way, it works. As far as 3v3 builds, and once again, this is the support build that I like to use. Tier 1 is Fountain, which causes your healing stream to bounce. This is great because since there's 2 other people on your team, it's really easy to get everyone to group up and heal if somebody's even nearby. Because the bounce is AI controlled, it'll just bounce to a nearby ally. The range on it's pretty good, so you can get a lot of free heal value out of the talent. It's very impressive in my mind. Tier 2, I like to take Healing Stream, which makes it so hitting allies with your heal actually lowers the cooldown on the recharge. And when you factor that in with Fountain and it's balancing and hitting multiple allies, it just makes it so you can pretty much turn into a heal bot. You can just stand there and right-click the whole game if you really wanted to. So that's why I like focusing on Healing Stream in 3v3, just because I feel like you get so much value out of it. And that could just be my logic as a player, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Tier 3, once again, Douse, just because I feel like it is such a good spell on the tier, just rooting anybody who tries to get on you. Tier 4, I'll take Soaking Wet, which increases the silence duration from 1.2 seconds to 1.8 seconds. So we more or less go from a 1-second silence to a 2-second silence. You're not getting focused as hard in 3v3 generally. It's a little easier to stay in the back and keep your positioning. So I feel like you don't necessarily need Aegis. It's kind of wasted since you shouldn't be taking that much damage anyways in 3v3. So I just go for a little bit more control there. As far as tier 5, to be completely honest, I generally take Presence of the Sea just because the silence is so good and it's on the cast too. But the support option on that tier is Healing of the Sea, which makes it so after Jaws spits them back out, he also spits out 3 fish that can be picked up and healed. In her battle right tiers, there's another tier, I want to say it's tier 2, though I might be wrong, that makes it so your bubble drops these healing fish. So if that's something you like, it's a mechanic you can pick up and it's valuable. I just generally prefer the silence.
Yeah, and it makes sense, and I would definitely listen to his suggestions. There's a reason why he suggests things and I don't, because I just pick the pretty pictures and he actually thinks out how things synergize. But that's pretty much how you play Pearl. You know, that's kind of a starter build, and hopefully we were able to educate you on what she does and what she brings to the table as a support. I like seeing a Pearl whenever I'm not on a support, whenever One Eye's not on a support. I like seeing a Pearl. It's a lot of fun. She provides a lot of utility. I like slows, I like snares, I like stuns, I like silence, any form of CC, and Pearl brings a lot of that to the table. She's really good. It's interesting, though, because she gets outclassed or outpicked a lot by Paloma, but also now by Lucy. I see a lot more Lucy players than I used to, and a lot less Pearl players than I used to. And it's kind of interesting because, yeah, she does a little bit less damage than other supports, but, I mean, her utility is just so... It's almost mandatory, what she brings in her kit. So... But I mean, she's a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun. If you guys are looking at picking up a support, start with Pearl, and it also helps that she's more beginner friendly. When you're just starting out and learning how to play that role.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think worth noting in the whole Lucy versus Pearl argument too is I think that players generally prefer how flexible Lucy is, just because Pearl really is like a support. She gives you control and she gives you healing. That's what's in her kit, which is absolutely fantastic. I think just people tend to favor more damage in AoE. So if you're worried about trying her just because you don't see her pick that much, or you're worried that she doesn't necessarily put out a ton of damage, still pick her because you will laugh at how many points into protection you get. It's insane. I've seen so many Pearl MVPs just because they're putting 600, 700 points into protection a match.
Yeah, and she extends matches for your team. If you come out and kind of get put on your heels, she has that ability to kind of just slow the pace of the match down and kind of help you get your feet back underneath you again. So she's a real big asset, pretty much to any team comp, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we've reached the point in the episode, like we do every week. We really like to give back and kind of put a spotlight on the community and the awesomeness that kind of comes out of the creativity that people have from their love of a game. We do it in our other podcasts, we do it in this one because we really just feel like, Battle.Right wouldn't be so awesome without an awesome community. And can I just say, before you cover your first community spotlight, that oh my god, the first one you're going to talk about is absolutely darling. Like I was looking at it and I was like, oh my god, this is absolutely adorable. So why don't you go ahead and take it away, because I could gush about this thing for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was actually really happy with a lot of the community art I saw this week, but I only try to highlight 3 pieces, so I picked my favorite 3 this week. The first one, and the one that Veritech is gushing about so much, is Small Eva pixel art by the Meggers over on DeviantArt, and it's this really, really adorable pixel art loop of Eva, and she's pink and purple, and there are hearts floating around her, and her eyes are just blinking, and besides the fact that the pixel art alone is worth noting. I mean, I know both of us are big fans of pixel art. It's something we've talked about on the Guardians. I have a Neo Geo cabinet. I love retro pixel art. You know what I mean? It's just so great. It's absolutely adorable. I don't know. It's rare that I feel like we find pixel art that's so cute. And on a character that I think a lot of people adore. I know that Eva's actually my girlfriend's favorite character just because it's a little old lady with a bunch of guns running around. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. She's a great character, and I love the pixel art. I feel like it captures the softer side of her. So that one, once again, was Small Eva pixel art by the Meggers over on DeviantArt if you want to go check it out. The second one this week, besides just being really, really impressive, I wanted to include because it's who we featured in the deep dive, and that is the Pearl fan art by X Charney. This is another one you can go find on DeviantArt, and this is beautiful. Extremely detailed, lots of color, and it's Pearl sitting on a throne at the bottom of the ocean. You can see the pearl on her weapon on the back of the throne. She looks like she's laughing because she's extremely mischievous. I don't know if you haven't played her in game. She has voice dialogues when she's MVP. That's just straight up BMing. Like it fits in her personality that she looks so cocky. You know what I mean? Details really fantastic. Highly, highly recommend checking it out. And once again, that was the Pearl fan art by X Charney. The last one I wanted to highlight is kind of a more bang for your buck sort of deal, just because there's so much in it. But it was a group of skin concepts by Hot Coffee over on DeviantArt. The ones that are featured in this particular piece are Outland Shifu, Ballgown Jade, Masked Assassin Jade, Dominion Beast Varesh, and Moonchild Sirius. I'm fairly sure a lot of these are tied to the Bloodline Champions lore. It's a game that I played a few rounds of, but unfortunately didn't really have anybody to play with, so I'm not super familiar with the lore. But I really, really like these skin concepts, particularly Outlander Shifu and Ballgown Jade. I really like Outlander Shifu just because I like the palette, lots of blacks, golds, and reds, really dark, has a cool mask. Love the weapon on it. I think it's a really well put together concept. And then Ballgown Jade, just because we don't traditionally think of Jade in a really feminine manner. She top to bottom and just coats and guns, you know what I mean? So it's a cool concept because it shows her, and I don't think it's an over-sexualized dress or anything like that. Shows her in a really fancy ball gown, still keeps the mask on. I love the dapper skins in games. You know what I mean? Yeah. All of the ones in League of Legends with like Dapper Ezreal and Jace, all of those. In Street Fighter, you can expect to see me playing Dudley. You know what I mean? Man's got a mustache. So I like the fancy outfits in games. So it appeals to me a little bit. But the other 3 skins are fantastic and highly recommend checking them out. So once again, that was Skin Concepts by Hot Coffee. Hot spelled HAWT, coffee with a K.
Yeah, and I liked these. Like when you put it, under the community spotlight, Outlander Shifu stuck out at me just because he was the first that I laid eyes on. But Dominion Beast Varesh looks a lot like not Thresh, like Tyrael, which is why I kind of zoned in on him. But yeah, I mean, Ballgown Jade is kind of cool. I mean, it's one of those typical like Eastern Oriental styled dresses that you see. Like you said, it's not really sexualized. It's got the nice lines in it, and it looks very traditional, like something you would see coming out of the East. Which surprised, Jade from the East. So. It is really cool, and you can tell Hot Coffee, the person who drew these concepts, put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. So we kind of wanted to reward the individual by highlighting it on the show, because these are awesome skins. Like I would play these skins in the game.
Easily, and that's not like a negative comment on the skins that are in the game. It's more of a positive comment on the qualities of these. Normally, when we see fan skin concepts, they aren't as detailed or as cohesive or as fleshed out. So all of these stood out to me because I would be more than happy to find them in a box.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they would definitely be epic quality. I mean, they're not recolors; they're completely standalone, like different from what you normally get. I mean, but they're really awesome. But I just that Eva pixel art, just I saw that and I was like, oh god, I would play that.
Oh, it's
like
so cute. It's just little pink bouncing up and down with the
yeah,
hearts. Oh,
with the
I love
hearts.
pixel art.
Oh, the hearts would just make it even better.
When I saw it, I knew it was one that you were gonna like, just because we both love pixel art so much.
Yep. It's really awesome. Well, when you are not doing RiteCast here on Monday nights, where can people find you at?
Well, I am always super easy to get a hold of on Twitter. You can reach me there at NA1I, North American One Eye, so NAONEEYE, pretty easy. There, easy to get a hold of. As far as other things are concerned, I do 3 podcasts a week, which is a bit, I know. We do RiteCast on Monday, which you guys are listening to, as well as on Wednesdays, I do the Multitap podcast. Multitap is a group that I associate and work with that's a collective of gamers who love retro games, modern games, anything to do with games. A wide variety of people in the group, and so with the podcast, we like to take the collection of personalities we have and showcase them, talking about different games or music or movies, just generally a bunch of different stuff. Portland Retro is this weekend, and there will actually be a lot of Multitap members there should you want to find Jay Dubious or Super Derek or Nico the Wee Guy. So if that's something you're interested in, check it out Wednesdays or find them at Portland this weekend. And the other show that I do once a week, I do with you, and is The Guardians. We do that Friday evenings. That's 6 p.m. Mountain. And that's a show that is much like this in that it focuses on Overwatch. So we cover everything to do with competitive. We cover community. We cover casual. If it's Overwatch, we talk about it. As well as, and I'm sure you'll mention this too, we will be at BlizzCon at World of Podcasts. The Veritech will be speaking, and then I will be at the meet and greet with him. So if you want to run into us there, should you be attending BlizzCon, that's another place you can find me.
Yep, and we're super excited for that. It has nothing to do with Battle Right, but BlizzCon's a big thing, and we've been putting a lot of time into the Guardians, so it's nice to have that reward, being one of the 5 panelists for Overwatch that was asked to come up and speak on a panel, and then to be able to have that hour of meet and greet, because they have a very limited schedule, and for us to be asked to do the meet and greet is kind of cool too. So we are definitely looking forward to that. But like I said at the beginning of the podcast, you can catch us on Twitter at RiteCast, RITECAST. That is currently our only social media account, just because we're still small, we're growing. But you can catch me pretty much across the board, Veritech GG. Twitch.tv/Veritech GG. I stream with one eye. Pretty much the only time I stream is with one eye. We play Battle Right, we play Overwatch. Like I said, tomorrow we're playing Heroes of the Storm because they're releasing the arena/brawl that we played at BlizzCon last year.
I even made the joke that it's watered down Battle Right.
It kind of is. I mean, it's there's no lanes. I mean, it's just. It's a lot shorter, but we're going to be doing that probably tomorrow. But you can catch me youtube.com/VeritechGG. When this is done being live, that's where the VOD goes over to the playlist on YouTube. You can also follow us and listen to us on iTunes. Just search for RiteCast on Google Music, Google Play Music. Search for RiteCast. You can find us on Spreaker, and as of this week, we are going to institute it for both RiteCast and the Guardians. We will be having the 3 most current episodes on SoundCloud. For those of you who are familiar with SoundCloud, know it's a great platform. It's got a great mobile app that you can carry around on your smartphone or your tablet or whatever, but it does not have the most forgiving paying options. So we have 3 hours we're able to use. We're going to use those effectively. So the most current 3 to 4 podcast episodes of RiteCast and the Guardians we will have up on SoundCloud. Search for that. Just search for RiteCast. You'll be able to find us because we have a really weird name and nobody else comes close. But that pretty much does it for episode 3 of RiteCast. You can catch us right here live on Twitch. Probably going to stick to this time slot of 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. It works well for both of us. It's nice and quiet, and we can get it done. And for those of you who are listening not live, we will catch you guys every week. We really appreciate it when you guys listen to the podcast. It makes us know that we are giving you a great service, and we strive then to give you something even higher quality the next week. So until next week, this is Veritech with my buddy One Eye saying we will see you guys next Monday.